Jason's here. Been friends for a long time here, but happy to have him on here. A little bio about him. And married for 25 years, 2 kids. Hired with Sun City West in July of 94. Started the academy with Phoenix in 96. Went through class 96-1. You have a bachelor's in organizational leadership. Currently the deputy chief of safety in the Phoenix Fire Department. Work on a ton of stuff as it relates to safety, obviously, but one of the biggest things that we have going on right now and why we're here is the cancer stuff going on in the fire service. He works with cancer research groups across the country, U of A, ASU, Harvard School of Public Health, Vincere Cancer Center, and a whole lot more. So obviously a subject matter expert in a lot of the stuff that we've been taking on with Firefighter48. So happy to have him here.
Man, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been great being friends for a long time, and this is a cool venue.
It's wild how quickly it's come. Jason and I used to work at Station 22 together, where he invented the StormStick, which I didn't have in the bio, and you didn't include it, but that's a thing. And then ultimately, Jason was one of the first people I met on the fire department, even if he doesn't remember it, back when he was a firefighter on Engine 23 back in the day. And he had Akins, and who else was on the truck? That's the one. JD, yeah. He was moved up out of class. So.
Yeah, it might have been Russ Stalder was down there.
That's right. Yeah,
it was fun.
Good
times.
Some of the stories you've told that aren't why we're here today.
They're coming back.
Awesome.
I'm going to need to shed that before we get going because all these memories are flooding back to stories you told.
Is this called the Fire Stick?
That StormStick.
StormStick.
Yeah, StormStick.
Okay, yeah. No.
He invented that you probably at the station at 22.
Tell me about that. That's like some...
Yeah.
Had you invented a product before?
No. And so... I'll start with just kind of the one-liner here is that some things happened and I made a promise to myself that I was going to do everything I could as a captain to keep my firefighters, my crew, from going through what I was watching some other people go through at the time. And that's what birthed that for us. And the little bit longer story, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about my history, I guess, is about 10 years ago, I got involved in the cancer prevention team within the Phoenix Fire Department. And I'm a real science and research and data nerd. And so that was where I started. As I started doing deep dives on data, what was coming out? There's a lot of really good research that was coming out at the time. And so I started pulling that and just reading as much as I could. And shortly after that, there was a couple members in the Phoenix Fire Department, friends of mine, and our coworkers, who got diagnosed with some pretty aggressive and late stage forms of cancer. And we as a department, I think, had this agony for one of the first real times of publicly having to watch our friends go through this stuff. And, Ricky Tejas, you were a big part of helping him. And then Brian Beck Jr. soon after that. The two of them passed away in early 2019, within 4 months of each other. It was brutal. And so it was during that time that this came to me. One of the captains of the gentleman, of Ricky, is a good friend of mine, and we were talking, and he said he carried this enormous weight of shame and guilt because he felt like he hadn't done enough. And as a captain, that's a horrible thing to think. But I remember the challenge that I took from that is back to my statement. I made a promise that I was going to do everything I possibly could to make sure that firefighters didn't have to go through this stuff. And that's where this came from. The data and the research that was coming out was really looking at, it's pretty obvious. We get distracted by a lot of things, and there's a lot that we have to get better at. But our issue is the exposure we get on fire scenes, right? And so I looked at that at that first and most intense point of exposure, figuring everything downstream from that. If we can make that better, everything downstream would be better. And when we looked at the decon program and the process that was going on at the time, it came from, there was this study that was done in 2016 it was led by a researcher named Kenny Fent. He's done a ton of research in the industry. And it showed that soap, water, and a brush, if you rinse people off, it can remove an average of 85% of toxins. Some of the most deadly toxins that we deal with, things called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, volatile organic compounds, VOCs, what off gases from things, heavy metals, those kind of things. And so great research, and that was huge in this space. And so what came from that, the difficulty was the study as it was done. They had a bucket, 5-gallon bucket, like from Home Depot, and they filled it with soap and water, and and it worked great in the research space. What we quickly found, and what I think the nation is resonating with, is that those things don't always translate into the field very well. It works out great in labs, doesn't always translate well in the field. And so as I was looking at that, I found that we were trying to do this, but it just wasn't working right. We were cutting corners. We were taking our gear off and breathing this stuff in, using water without detergent. It was just this. It was ineffective at best. So that's where I started, and I thought, I'm going to come up with something better. And it's interesting. I should dig it up, but the first thing I did is I sat down and I listed about 12 different things that we had to get right in order to make this thing effective. And that's what I did, is systematically started going through that and trying to figure out how we solve that problem. And that's where the StormStick Decon System came from. It was 22.
So you just like went out in the garage and you're like, like in your little laboratory, and you just started like going, what if I took this and this and like.
I had it. You know what? I sat down, and I think this is the things I love to do. I love innovating, creating, changing new things. It's part of my DNA, I guess. I had this vision in my mind that I started with, and the whole process to me is just so much fun. The product as it is now looks nothing like my initial thought.
Your prototype.
But we started somewhere. Yeah, my initial thing was sort of this umbrella that kind of hung in this weird place. But I started there. I started drawing some stuff out, and I had Terry McHugh, who was at the station with me. He was a captain. He's a great welder, like artistic welding. I had him teach me how to weld, and I started figuring
MIG
out.
or TIG?
Well, it started with MIG, but it ended up being TIG because you have to have a TIG welder to weld aluminum, which is what we work with. So I learned to weld and just started fabricating some stuff and testing it. And it took about 2 years to get this thing done. I ended up getting connected with some people at ASU and worked with them a little bit. There's the detergent detergent process that we had. But it was just such a fascinating, for me, it was therapeutic. I had no intention. And I'll be honest, it was very myopic. When I started this, I was just thinking about 3 people. I was thinking about Evan and about Greg and about Joe. And I just knew that I never wanted to tell their family that I didn't do enough. And so as this project got going and we started building it out, started testing things, it was working. Like, this thing was fun, but it was doing what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so we tested it. Through UL, and we got tremendous results back on this. And it was effective, and it was working. And so we decided to figure out a way. My goal, and I got to tell you, I feel like I was so short-sighted. It started off with my crew, and then I thought, man, what if I could do something that the Phoenix Fire Department could benefit from? Like, what if we could get this for everybody? Yeah. How do we do that? And so we changed some things because we have different trucks in our system. We changed some stuff to make sure that it could work on all of those. And in doing that, we started going down the line of how do we get this in our system? I've learned a lot in that time.
Yeah, right.
But in doing that, we had to sort of build it as a formal business, essentially, in order to get that in. And so we ended up doing that. And I cried when I finally got this I'm gonna get emotional now, but when I finally got this in the Phoenix Fire Department, it was like such it just felt so good because I knew it worked. I knew it was going to help, and it was just a dream. It went from there to start expanding, and now we're in, 30 plus states in the United States. We're in Canada.
Wow.
There's stuff. It's all
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's a piece. And it's one person said it better than I ever could, that the product is a byproduct of what we do. Like, I'm proud of the work that project. It's a passion project for me. I'm so proud of the work that went into that. But there's so much more. There's so many more things. That's one. I love it. And I'm passionate about it. But as we've learned in the fire service, this cancer prevention, this cancer reduction issue, there's so many things we've got to get better at in order to do that. And this is one that's in that space. I think it's holding really well in that space. But I'm looking at the bigger picture of this. How are we going to put a dent in this around the country and around the world? And so that's the mission we're on.
Yeah, it's so kick-ass.
Thank you.
Just congratulations. Well, first for taking initiative and trying to help solve the problem. I'm sure firefighter cancer, ultimately, it's about giving yourself every freaking advantage possible so you don't give cancer, and clearly decontaminating in the field after a fire right there and having a good tool to use to do that is probably save some guys, you know?
It's one of those things you're never going to be able to measure. And
Yeah.
we've talked about this in the cancer. We talk about pulling all the different levers. We're never going to be able to pull the cancer lever that makes it completely go away, but we're going to pull a lot of levers a little bit that's going to make it better. And unfortunately, we're not really going to be able to measure it very well, probably. Like, we're not going to see how many people didn't get cancer because they were doing it. But it is pretty cool as we sit here and think about how far it's come, because I remember strapping that thing to I can't remember what the original connections were that you used to put it on engine 22.
Yeah.
But we would be like, yeah, B-Shift made this contraption, and we I don't know if we like pack strapped it to the.
You had to, no, there's an adapter. I still have that original one in my garage. I kept it because it was cool. But yeah, it was super, like, it looked like an old beat up tank. And
it's pretty cool, man. You get on a fire scene and the other surrounding units would be like, what the hell is that? And they're like, oh, B-Shift made it. We're trying to use it, you know, and we fire it on and we're like, oh, too high. Because it didn't have a regulator at first, right?
Right.
If I remember correctly. So you'd have to kind of
move
it, not too much.
But it was a starting point. You know what? It's the bigger, you know, and that whole process, take the cancer prevention side and the tool out, just going through a process like that of trying to solve a problem that exists with something that doesn't exist yet is I don't know if there's anybody else out there like me, but it's a fascinating process to go through. It's so fun, but I'll also tell you it was brutally difficult, super expensive. So thank you to my wife for letting me fund that, my passion project.
Were you spending like your weekends in the Home Depot and Lowe's in the pipe fitting section?
Yes,
like
1,000%.
Screwing things together, like going, no, that's not it. Oh, that elbow, I need that. Maybe I'll do it out of this. And,
dude, it was, there were certain pieces because none of this stuff existed. And so I'm like, I need this. Yeah. But nobody makes them. So there was a time where I was like, cutting with tin snips this metal thing and punching holes in it because I needed to create this proportioner for this detergent thing. And then I was getting PVC and gluing it together. And then I ended up buying a 3D printer. So these are the things just so I could fashion some stuff and actually iterate and make things and design it. So then I had to learn CAD in order to do that. It was there's two sides of this. Like, you have to be passionate about this stuff. There's a lot of time where it got really expensive, and this is never about a business to me. It was a project. This was me like welding in my garage and trying to figure this out for our truck because I thought it was cool. And there was a lot of times where I had no idea how we were going to solve some of the problems that we needed to solve with it. And again, like I said, it went on for a couple of years. So it takes a lot of passion. You got to believe in what you're doing and care about the things that you're doing in order to push through some of these sometimes. But I'm proud that we've done that. So
it's super cool. I mean, if you think about it, we've talked a lot about culture on here. The fact that they made something on B-Shift that we didn't think was dumb, and we actually found value, like, for all the other stuff that was going on. And we're like, dude, we're going to use that. Like, he changed the culture, not only in the fire service, but at our station, to where we're like, we pulled this thing that was on the truck off of it on a fire because we thought it was cool what they were doing, and we put it on the truck and tried to use it. So it's cool, man. I mean, it's culture change like as quick as I've seen anything. It's I don't know if C-Shift was using it, but we did. We thought it was cool, and for all the same reasons that he was motivated was the reason that we were buying into it, because of you were trying to help your guys, and I, as a captain on the same truck as him, didn't want my guys to have to deal with that either. He gave me a tool to be able to help prevent that. So it's pretty cool, man. It changed culture.
And I think so. And I don't want to take credit for that, because I think that's a bigger issue it's the big picture that I'm passionate about is the culture change. That's a really difficult thing to do. I think in the Phoenix Fire Department, we happen to be in a good place. I have this, the things that I talk about when I am, interacting with people around the country on this issue is I've found, it's my experience, that there's three things that really need to be in place for culture to change. One is that you have to have organizational support, right? So top down, you have to have buy-in from your leadership, from the members. You have to. This has to be something that everybody buys in on, or you have to have support, organizational support. That comes in like policies. That comes in people reinforcing these things like decon processes, advanced cleaning processes, tactics that we have to change because of this. You have to have buy-in and understanding from the membership, right? People have to understand and believe that this is a problem. That took us a while. There's still departments that I talk to that the members don't even care, Or they say, yeah, cancer is just part of the job, you know, and I hear that. That's hard to listen to, you know? Yeah, it's just part of what we signed up for. So you've got to have membership that realize this is a problem and are willing to do something about it. And at that point, now you can put tools like our tool or others in. I call those easily repeatable behaviors, things that you can put into the system. They've got to be easy. They've got to be accessible. But if you don't have buy-in and people understand the problem that through education and through some of the data and the research coming out, and you don't have organizational support, you can have all the shiny tools in the world and they're just not going to work. You can put anything you want in front of people. It's not going to work because they don't see a reason for it. So that becomes the bigger picture. This is what I love talking now about organizational change, how we make organizational change. And speaking to leaders around the fire service, if one of those two pieces aren't in place, if your members aren't already bought in on this, that's where you got to start. Yeah. Don't buy it. Don't buy a tool. Don't buy my tool. Don't buy any tool. Educate your members. Get buy-in. If your leadership isn't sold out on this thing, if top down from the fire chief all the way down to the bottom is not supporting this process, if you're not willing to write policies around it and reinforce those things with your members, don't buy a tool. Work there first. So anyway, that's my rant.
You're an inventor.
That's a weird, yeah.
Isn't that weird?
It is.
You invented something. Yeah.
Should put that on my business card.
You should. Jason Miller, inventor.
It's funny because, my wife and kids aren't any more impressed with me than they were.
They never are, dude. Never are.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah, it'd be like,
keep trying.
Like, it'd be like right after the premiere of some movie I do, should be like, can you take the garbage out? Yeah. He goes, no. I guess I'm not that special.
I guess not.
Super cool. So congrats on all that.
Cool.
So what's going on with Firefighter Cancer right now? Obviously, things just continue to evolve.
Yep.
But where are things at right now? Obviously, we lost a couple guys in the last 8 months. We lost Scott in December, Scott Leatham. We lost Anthony in January. And tons of people signed up for the first responder screening program at Vincere, like probably a record number. If they
I mean, Shuko will be able to talk more about that.
Stunning number. Where are things right now with firefighter culture and cancer? Are they finally all scared to death about it? And what's going on?
Yes and no. There's a ton that's being done. You know, when I jumped into this, I told you about 10 years ago. The numbers were, I think, from 2002 to 2016, greater than 60% of the line of duty deaths, active members, this isn't retirees, was due to occupational cancer. By 2020, that number had exceeded 70%. And we're kind of hovering around there right now nationally. There's been a ton of research that's come out there. We know so much more now than we did back then. And so it's starting to create a lot of systemic change. That plays itself out in a number of different ways. And the reason why this is great is we were talking about the decon piece because that's something that I tackled early on. But what the fire service is now doing is looking at things from the beginning. So when you talk about tactics, changing tactics with cancer prevention in mind. Mm-hmm. And so we understand things differently now. If you cool environments ahead of you, which we're starting to do now, it's a change in the way that we manage the fire ground. Cooling those environments actually creates less of an exposure for us. It pressurizes compartments, pushes out a lot of those toxins, and then lowers the temperature inside those. All of that is good for us in terms of cancer reduction. Coordinated ventilation, being able to get some of those toxins off. It's what we do in the fire service tactically, but it also is helping us. So things like that before we even have to address this on the back end. Station design and equipment design and truck design, looking at clean cab technology, which is like a lot of hard surfaces. Super funny when we came on the job, we used to pay extra to have like embroidered stuff on our fabric seats. Yeah. Now we have to pay extra again to get those seats. The stuff that was cheap before. Yeah. Anyway, but those hard surfaces inside, HEPA filters inside trucks, stations that are designed with like hot, warm, and cold zones to be able to protect what gets in and out of the station and ventilation systems. Our PPE, this is something that's really interesting. I speak a lot about this when I teach is there's a lot of irony in how we got into this problem. It really was in advancements. Everything was an advancement in the fire service and in technology around us that actually, ironically, led to many of our problems. You think about building design, what materials we use to build. And I don't know if everybody can see this room, but if you're anywhere, look around the room. It used to be 50 years ago that it was hardwoods and cotton and
wool,
cotton fabrics.
Paper.
And now it's all, we call it
Nothing.
solid gasoline. It's just synthetics, it's plastics, it's hydrocarbons. So that changed. A great advancement in terms of building technology but terrible for us.
Yeah.
Turnout equipment and our gear. It's amazing what it can do. But when manufacturers were making progress with our turnout gear, they were looking at thermal protection. They weren't looking at exposure protection. And so now what we put those two together to begin with, and you've got these building materials that burn hot, they burn fast, they put off gnarly, disgusting toxins that are way more toxic than they were 40, 50 years ago. And we've got equipment that can get us fast and far deep into these spaces that we were never able to get into before. And so we're like this inside this disgusting petri dish of these nasty, gnarly toxins that we never were even able to have before. Throw into that the advent over about 40 years ago, we started getting into the fire EMS stuff. There's about 9 EMS calls for every 1 call, generally speaking, around the nation. Call volume went through the roof, and so now you're dealing with sleep deprivation. You've got eating schedules that are all over the place. You've got stress and the kind of things that we're seeing. So you couple that with this problem that already existed. That's what's changed over the last 40, 50 years. Those are some of the pillars. So we're pushing back on that. So now the manufacturers are building gear that has toxic exposure protection built into it, particulate barriers in our hoods and in our cuffs, these little elastic bands that'll keep the toxins from coming up through them. Yeah. We're starting to push back on all of those things. So then we've got the decon. We understand on-scene decon practices and wiping your skin down and deconning your gear off and your trucks and your equipment. We have advanced cleaning. Now, Phoenix Fire Department, I'm going to brag about us for a second, and I'm just lucky that I live here, and I'm so fortunate to be part of this. But we have, I don't know anybody else in the nation. Maybe it's happening, but I haven't spoken to anybody. We have an in-house advanced cleaning team. So when our gear, we have 2 sets of gear, which is crazy that they've invested that into us. And when one of them gets dirty on a scene, we bag it up, and these like genies come by. They pick up our gear, they clean it, and within 2 days, they bring it back to us so it's clean for the next deal. There's special cleaning now that we have in-house. So things like lithium-ion fires and the heavy metals that come off of that, we have a way of tagging those, and then there's a special cleaning process. So there's all these things that are going into the system to help push back on this. Couple that with what some of your other members have talked about with our mental health and diet and nutrition and exercise. Yeah. We're putting members. I'm so optimistic. Let me just say that. I'm going to stop and just say I'm so optimistic about the future of this. We can get really sad and it gets dark when we start talking about the loss that we've had and the horrific place that we've come from in this. But the future, I think, looks really good because our members are going to be so educated, so prepared.
For sure.
Have the tools that they need. And as long as we can implement that stuff, get people to actually use the tools and buy into the programs and the mental and the behavioral health stuff, the diet, the nutrition, and act the way that we need to on calls, we can beat the numbers. I feel that way. So
I hope so. Yeah. Wait, at the Firefighter48 event at Sunbar in April, Shuko said on the stage that for every 100 firefighters that are going through the first responder screening program, they're finding between 10 and 12 cancers. Mm-hmm. Where are we, do you think, on the graph? Are we at a point where it can at least plateau or start reducing? I mean, when are we going to see some better numbers, you think?
Man, and like what Ben mentioned earlier, it's really difficult to anticipate that. But I think, so relative to that in general, and I know Dr. Shukla can speak better to this, but we're seeing a lot of these cancers because nobody's ever been screened before. Like, she's doing it. She's got technology that's never existed before and definitely hasn't been available to members of the fire service. And so where I get optimistic is if we could get everybody screened and then we're following up with that, I don't think the numbers are forever are going to be that way, but we're going to catch these early. And that's what she's doing is most everybody that's getting caught is getting caught early.
It's like the first wave of screening.
Yes. And so those numbers are astounding and they're painful and it's horrible, but we're catching them. I'm one. I got caught with an early version of skin cancer and it was treated and I'm back and, life is good. So because of that, the early detection piece, we're catching these things early, getting people treated. So I think that's going to start curbing some of those numbers here. The all of the things I talked about that are happening right now in the fire service, they take some time to implement. Getting stations designed differently, building trucks differently, implementing tactical strategies, getting equipment out, teaching people how to do these programs and processes, and then continually evaluate them and upgrade them. But I have to think that the other thing that we have to couple is that there's typically, from my understanding, about a 2 to 10 year latency on the exposure to the cancer, right? So you get exposed, which is part of the cultural problem, but you get exposed to something, it's not going to be for usually at least a couple years. If not, it could be up to 8 or 10 years later that cancer would show up because of that. So there's always this latency in the system, but I think when we get really good at doing all the things that we just got done talking about, that's where we're going to start seeing those numbers. It's going to trail because of that latency. So there's people right now that are getting exposed, or people that got exposed 2 or 3, 4 years ago to things that might be problematic for them. But I think we're going to see this trail in the next, I would say in the very near future, where at least the people who are doing these things well are going to start seeing these things change, the numbers change. Now, I say the people that are doing these things well is because, I talk to a lot of people around the nation, and when I ask them, hey, what are you doing now? What's going on now in the department? It's heartbreaking sometimes how little is being done in some other places. But Arizona, we're fortunate with our cancer presumptive laws, so our members have great coverage, and they don't have to worry about going to court to get bills paid when they're battling, chemotherapy. But and I would say this too, what I'm hearing, the Phoenix region is really one of the most progressive cancer prevention places in the nation. There's some other places that are doing some pretty good stuff too, but I'm not seeing anything like what we're doing here. So I'm incredibly optimistic. I think there's a lot of reason to be.
After Dying to Save You dropped the public release, I started following some of the conversations around the internet around the film. And one particular standout was a bunch of firefighters in Ireland who, and I'll forward it to you, you should read it. And they're like, they were responding to what they saw, that they were losing guys, but they didn't have any kind of screening program available to them. They weren't even anywhere near a hospital that could even do something like that. Yeah. They were just hours away from a medical center bed together. There was no program, and their leadership wasn't doing anything on the problem of cancer. And they're like, oh yeah, I lost this guy. Okay, that is like they were all just talking about all the guys lost to cancer, but nothing is being done. I would not want to be a firefighter in Ireland.
That's brutal. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that I like about our culture is we've taken on the fight.
Yeah.
Like nobody, certainly the idea that, because for a long time, this has been something that we've said, like, hey, we need the support from our municipalities. We need the support from the state. We need the support from the people that we're working for, that when we're diagnosed with cancer, that we're going to be taken care of. That fight is very much so been taken on by a lot of different groups. And I think we've been largely successful. To your point, what I've been impressed to see is the pivot that's also taken place is the need for firefighters isn't going away. Fires are going to continue to happen. But we've had a lot of people take the stance like Jason has, is I'm not going to accept this. Like I'm going to figure out a way, not just, I'm glad the city's going to take care of me if I get sick, but I'm also going to figure out a way so that we can leave it better than we found it. That's been our mantra in the fire service. So what can we do to make it better? We talk to guys who are working on nutrition stuff to be able to eat as healthy as we can. We talk about decon stuff. We talk about the tactics that he's talking about. I'm just really proud of the fire service in general, that we haven't said like, wonk, like it's over now, we're doomed. Like, no, this is still an amazing job that we all love, and we're going to figure out a way to make it better, leave it better than we found it, because a lot of us are having kids that are getting on, are going to want to get on someday. So what are we going to do? We're just going to just accept our fate that this is terrible? No. And we can do things to increase our odds of not getting sick and not ever having to deal with this. And that's what I've seen over the last few years. People, stand up and say, there's something we can do about this, and we're going to figure out more things that we can do about this. So it's been pretty cool.
I love it. Yeah. And that's, if a little bit of a challenge maybe to some that are out there is everybody wants to reap the benefits of the solutions, but not everybody's jumping on board to be part of the progress and drive these solutions. Stuff, to get involved in this stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I would say that now I was passionate about this space and I jumped in, but there's a lot of things out there that we need to solve problems on. And firefighters are going to be the best people to solve firefighter problems. And so that's the challenge is we have to have people jumping on board saying, I'm going to do something. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it is, but I'm going to do something. I care about this. And I made a joke before this podcast. It wasn't really a joke is, I've promoted over the last number of years to a position I never thought I would ever be. And the more I get put in these positions, the more I feel like an imposter, the imposter syndrome thing. Like, I don't feel like the subject matter expert on anything. I just feel like a guy who cares.
Yeah.
I care. I give a shit and I want to help people.
That's where it
And
starts.
so, and I think that's what it takes. At the end of the day, we'll figure it out. I didn't know how to
People
weld
who
and I
give
learned
a
how to
shit,
weld,
yeah.
and I don't know how to
Helpful.
invent stuff. I didn't know how to, but we figure it out. And firefighters are so good at doing that. And I think the more we can get jumping on board to understand the mental health piece and the cancer piece and the exercise and the sleep piece, we'll solve it. We'll get there. We just got to all jump on board and start moving. So when you start talking to some of the departments and they're struggling, the firefighters can make a difference. If you wait around for the chiefs, and I am one of them, so if you wait around for the chiefs to fix all the problems, good luck. Yeah. Because there's just not enough of us to do it, and there's no invention section within fire departments. People that are just sit in a room and try to figure out how they invent a new product to fix things. So, but firefighters can, and they do, and so.
It's literally their job, right? As we talked about. People call us with their problem because, like, if it's not a police problem, somebody calls 911 and the cops can't handle it. Every other issue under that umbrella is the firefighter's issue. Yep. And that's like what we do. So, I mean, this is what I've seen is this problem has fallen underneath that umbrella. And I feel like, the brand new people on the job and the people out on the fire trucks are figuring this thing out. Yeah. And we don't know what the solution is going to be. We actually know it's probably going to be a lot of different solutions, but they're working on it. Yep. Yeah. And I love it. Yep. I think it's great.
And the solution today isn't going to be, the StormStick. I hope that 5-10 years from now, there's something else that's way better than that came out because somebody got another idea and we understand things better. But it's a step. It's a thing that we can do now that's better than what we had before. And I think if the fire service can start tackling some of this stuff as members, realizing that we can do that, like you can step up and come up with some solutions to some things and drive that through the system. That's how we're going to get better. So
I find it super cool that you developed that product and stepped up and just got involved, chased an idea, and here it is, and used in 30 different states. That's just super cool.
I appreciate that.
Has any other firefighter to your knowledge?
Full circle, ask them who works for the company now.
Who works for the company?
Evan and Greg.
Yeah, guys on
two guys that I built it for. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So, are you aware of any other?
Cool, I didn't even.
Are you aware of any other Phoenix firefighters who are also trying to develop products like you did?
Yeah. So a friend of mine, he's been in the cancer prevention space for a long time. His name's Creston Ludlow. He built a dermal wipe. That he's been running that for years. It's a fantastic
fire
product. Yep, fire wipes.
Yeah.
It's been out and he's all over he's all over the world. Actually, that stuff's everywhere.
Awesome.
He built that a number of years back. It was a few years before my product even started being pushed, and doing great stuff. And another, it's kind of cool to see firefighters building firefighter stuff. There's another guy on the job who has built like a hose cleaning. I know there's a few of them out there, but like a thing to clean hoses off. So after you're done, all the dirt and stuff that's on the hose, you run it through this thing, it cleans that off. So there's some pretty cool things that people are working with, and it's like I said, it's a step. Every piece of this is just chipping away at this in increments, and that's really the story. Like Ben said, there's no lever that we're going to pull. Yeah. But if we can get 1% better, and think about this. So in terms of diagnosis, in the Phoenix Fire Department for a while, we were seeing 4 diagnoses a month that Dr. Shukla was seeing at the Vincere Cancer Center through screenings. So that's a pretty big number when you add that for over a couple years. Think about just making a 5% dent in this problem over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah. Those are human beings. Those are lives that are changed by margins, by small margins. And so that's what we're really doing. We've got to if we can get a little bit better at a lot of things and continue to do that,
I'll stack up.
Yeah. And all of those they all translate to human beings, lives that are going to be healthier, live longer, be able to spend more time with their kids.
I'm
and their
glad you see it
families.
as that, not as statistics. They
Yeah,
are lives, man.
human beings are attached to those numbers,
They
and
have kids and
yes,
wives and families and friends who love them, and
yep. And the brutality of all that we see, and anybody in the fire service knows somebody in the fire service that's had cancer and gone through that, whether they've gotten through it and been successful on the back end, or whether they're still going through it. It's brutal. And so these are human beings. This is what we're trying to solve. They're our brothers and sisters. They're the people that we live with a third of our lives. And that's why it matters. That's why I get jazzed up about this and love the fight.
I love it.
Love the fight.
So glad you're a passionate guy and did what you did. What is the official name of your role? You said something safety and
I currently work as the deputy chief of our safety and prevention section in the Phoenix Fire Department.
What other things are going on in safety and prevention as it under your purview? Is that the right word?
Purview.
That relates to firefighter cancer.
It's about to go wide open. Member services.
So we lined member services with safety. That's a huge deal. That encompasses all things member services. So when someone gets sick, when they get injured, when they're going through some of the tough stuff, like you guys talked about with Joe, that all lives there too. So cancer prevention the cancer piece becomes an arm of a bigger piece now. All things disease, all things injury, accidents, those kind of things feed into that. And then we're the ones who now, our section is the ones caring for those people, which is super cool. Historically, we've got a great relationship with our labor counterparts, and labor's done a tremendous job over the years. Ray Mione with the Phoenix Fire Department has just taken on member services. He built a team out, but it's been difficult over the years. So our fire chief Duran decided that he wanted to formalize this, institutionalize member services as a bigger issue. So it's now a section within the fire department. We're building it out, assigning staff to it. And we have the EAP program with Carrie Ramella. I know she was on one of your podcasts and just doing tremendous work. So this is now turning into sort of a network where the cancer piece feeds into all these other things too. There's other illnesses and injuries and sicknesses that happen when people are going through that. There's mental and behavioral health issues that have to be dealt with because of that. There are peripheral issues. Like I said, I was challenged to do what I'm doing by the captain of a guy who died from cancer. He was the one that got in my face. It was like, he was an intense guy. Dan Grover. Can I say names on this?
Yeah, Dan.
These guys are insane. Dan
he
Grover,
met him.
just
Yeah.
incredible
Through the
man.
interview as well.
Yeah, and passionate, right? But he was a guy that really drove me to this because of his pain, because of what he was going through. And so there's a ripple effect to all this. And so being able to look at this as not just a one issue, that it's cancer, the ripple effect of that hits all these other things. And so now being able to address that on a larger scale while we're still tackling the issues I'm pretty excited about. I'm blessed to be in a position that I might get to impact that a little bit. So
you were looking over at me.
Oh, no. No, not at all.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what, so obviously Dying to Save You came out.
Yeah. Tremendous.
And,
by the way, thank you for that. That was insane. It was great. Thank you.
493, local 493 for wanting something like that to be done, because it benefits more than them, But what changes have you seen? Attitudes change, culture shifting since that film dropped?
I think, like Ben mentioned earlier, there's always a reaction when something happens, right? So when Anthony Mock died, gosh, those are so brutal. Funerals suck, man.
They're the worst.
And especially when they're these just great people. But you see this swing that happens. And when Dying to Save You comes out, you see these swings that happen. And it's interesting. I saw a guy named Eric M. Bailey. He wrote a book. Ben made a joke about it because it was sitting on my desk. It's called The Cure for Stupidity.
I texted him. I said, "It's not
There's no
available."
cure.
I'm surprised I haven't gotten that for Christmas yet.
And I don't know the guy personally. I saw him at a conference, and then I bought his book and his audiobook. I was going through it, and it's not what you think. It's all about brain science. It's a really fascinating book. but it's helped me understand this issue a little bit better. There are these things called heuristics. They're mental shortcuts. They're things that our brain has done over many, many, many years to help keep us safe and alive, but also allow us to make decisions quickly. But what it does is it causes us to kind of get rid of information so that we can get to a decision quickly. And there's dozens and dozens of different ones. One that came to mind for me that was interesting, especially in the section I'm in, is this thing called an availability heuristic. And what it identifies is that we make decisions based on things that we can remember that happened recently. Something that just happened. I'm going to give you an example that was brutal for us in our department as we had a member who died in the fire service, Brad Harper. And it was impactful for me because I was the paramedic. I was treatment sector, and I took him to the hospital. I did CPR, and I mean, it was brutal.
Jesus.
He passed away. And in the wake of that, we made some really quick adjustments. The fire chief had every crew come down, and we made some adjustments in our system. And we didn't see another similar accident like that or action even indirectly related to that for many months. But what we saw then is after a number of months, the issues started trickling back into the fire service, right? And I think when we identify that, when that event happened, we were all just broken. And that was the marker that said, we're never going to let that happen again, because it was so fresh and it was so painful and it was right there. But now that's happened. That was 7 years ago or so. A third of the department was hired since then. They don't have that reference point. And so I think what happens is that over time, that can fade. Our ability to have this, that impression fades.
Yeah.
So I think, and I don't know what the answer to that is, but identifying that there's a thing to that. It's not because our members are complacent. It's not because they don't care. It's not that they don't think it's important. Yeah. It's just our brain. We're doing so many things. There's so much going on for us that we've got to keep it in front of people all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't, it can't be a movie every time, and it can't be a big event every time. And God forbid it's not somebody getting sick and dying to make this stuff happen. But those are the things that help me say, okay, what can we do to keep this in front of people so that they see the importance, so that it's visceral, so that it's emotional to them, so that when they are faced with making a decision, they can make the right one. They can make the one that they know will help them, will help the people around them, will not cause their family harm and pain. And those are the things that we're trying to do. Sorry, that was kind of a redirect, but we've got to keep it in front of people. So the movie was tremendous.
Yeah, but we got to keep it in front of people. Messaging constantly on social media and every platform possible to reach firefighters. Just remind them it's still an issue. You still got to do this.
That's why I love this, right? Because I hope that there's family members. I hope there's wives and husbands of firefighters that are listening to this, that torture their significant others into doing the right things, that these are the things that we continue to push this message out to people, make sure that it stays at the front of conversations. And I think that'll help us while we're putting everything else in place.
Life or death, man.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a really important thing.
Yeah. And it's not, speaking to the comment I made earlier that I've heard from people, it's not a part of our job. It doesn't have to be. There are things that we can do to dramatically reduce the likelihood of this being a problem for us.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And it's just going to take a lot of things, a lot of processes being refined, a lot of mindsets being refined. But all that added together should dent the problem for sure, but things are always going to be burning. And one thing, and I meant to ask you just off the podcast, when Dave Jensen was talking, he said that from the time he started as a firefighter until now, the smoke has changed. He said it's now this black, silky, opaque smoke that you can't see through, but earlier in his career, it wasn't like that at all. Is that accurate?
That's what he was speaking to earlier.
Yeah, it speaks to that. The things that are burning are different. When you have plastic burning versus a log in a fire.
Right. One makes this gray, wispy kind of smoke, not this black. It looks like burn pits in Iraq.
Yeah. It's funny. I'll tell you this horrible story that was funny at the time. And she'll kill me. I have a cousin. We went out to Michigan, and we were having this campfire. And she's like, "Hey, I got this thing to show you guys. Everybody close your eyes." And so we all close our eyes. And we're sitting around the campfire. And she's like, "All right, open them up." And we look up, and there's this like the fire is blue and there's this green stuff coming off. She's like, look how pretty the fire is. She took a string of Christmas lights and threw them in the fire so that it would cut off all these really cool colors.
What's her Instagram handle? I'm going to tag her in this when I get this thing up
she's
there.
going to kill me for saying that. But we did. We looked up. We're like, oh, my God, that's cool. Oh,
But
God.
they
And everybody's
don't
backing up.
know.
No, but that's the difference. So think of that. It's strings of Christmas lights that are burning now instead of a log on a fire. And the stuff's gnarly and it's dense.
Yeah.
And it burns fast. It burns hot. It burns a lot differently than it used to. So
Who's
right.
Who said, you guys probably know, it was somebody said like they could take 20 minutes to burn a couch in the 1970s.
There's videos online.
Yeah.
And now it's like just flash. It's like freaking over. It's like it's already a fully engulfed living room before you guys even show up. And
Who does that? Who does that
Underwriters
video?
Laboratory, because I do that in my presentation.
does that?
UL's, you can go online and you can find it. They do a side-by-side comparison, and they do what's called legacy materials right next to modern materials, and it's the exact same outfitted room with sofas and the window coverings and all that. But one is made out of just cottons and wool and wood, and the other one is all these modern materials. And you get to see the change, and it's fascinating to how disgusting the smoke as it comes off. The room flashes in less than 4 minutes, like 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
wow.
The modern or the legacy room, it burns slow. It doesn't put off nearly the toxins. It flashes, I think, in 27 minutes.
I mean, they literally have to take a break.
Yeah, they have to time lapse it just to get So just a completely different ball game now. So so we're just dealing with I think we found is in the cancer prevention space and things associated. The world was evolving at a pace that it outpaced us for a while. Yeah. We're now catching that, and I think we're moving at least at the speed of evolution of the relevance. But I think even ahead of that, we're starting to get ahead of some of those things. And it's crazy because just as soon as you feel like you're making some progress, some new thing like PFAS chemicals and these fluorinated chemicals start popping
the battery
up,
stuff.
And now lithium-ion batteries and heavy metals as it become like we keep having to deal with these waves of things that are coming at us. But at least we're in a much better position to handle that stuff when it comes because of science and research and these things that we're already putting in place, tons of things that we're putting in place that position us much better. So.
I saw on LinkedIn the other day, this company in Florida was repurposing old fishing nets from the ocean, and they were 3D printing plastic furniture with them, and really nice, beautiful design furniture. And I'm like, that's not going to be good when it burns, if it burns. And then I thought, like, there needs to be some, like, remember the Good Housekeeping seal of approval? Yeah. It'd be really cool if somebody initiated like some kind of standard, and then they would get a firefighter friendly seal, like force them to look into materials that aren't so bad for firefighters. And when these things burn, it'd almost be like, I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. And I think to your point that's the stuff that happens. Like people, when they were changing building materials, they weren't looking, it wasn't necessarily like, well, if it burns, how's this going to affect firefighters? They just wanted to seal spaces better and make it lightweight and cheaper and faster. And they did that. And it was very successful for them. But in the same way, years ago, there was a huge push to put these fire retardant chemicals on things.
Yeah.
Carpets, and so they started coating carpets and drapes and your furniture with it and all that, which is great until they catch fire. And once they catch fire, now they're way more toxic than, so that whole push, I think this pendulum swung and they stopped putting that stuff on there. And so we learn things as it goes, but sometimes we just got to kind of be aware and position ourselves to be aware of things like that. Just being able to identify that was something nobody would have done 10 years ago. So now we can look at it and say, well, wait a second, let's push pause on this because if that thing burns, you're going to cause some problems. So.
And the conversation's happening. I think, why would they ask the questions if we weren't?
Yeah.
We had no idea that these things were going to be bad until they were.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I think we're asking the right questions within the fire service as a whole. On the national level, that's what you're seeing with the IFF when they're asking and they're having relationships with people who are writing all of these laws to be like, hey, what about this? What about when the firefighters come in here? What's going to happen on this whole thing? So I think it's actually really good thing that's happening. And you can't expect the people back then to be asking those questions because, again, we weren't. We didn't think it was going to be a bad idea until it was.
Yeah. And again, this is why I'm optimistic, because if you look back on, if you're being in this space, like trying to grind away to make a difference, it's just like the local was doing with changing the presumptive cancer laws. They've done a tremendous job, but it took years, right? And you don't feel like you're making much of a difference until you look back on 10 years and you say, holy cow, look at where we're at. Yeah. Look at what we've done. Look at how the culture has changed. Look at the things that have been implemented. And that's why I get really optimistic about this. It's you have to feel the full weight and the pain and the agony of this of the byproduct of this. But if what comes out of that is incremental change over a period of time, and we can look back another 5 years from now, that's what I say. Like in 5 years, if we've done this in the last 10, and we've got more information and more research that's been done, more tools at our disposal, what's the next 5 to 10 years going to look like? We've got some real potential to make a huge dent in this, and I'm optimistic about that. So.
Awesome. My 19-year-old nephew graduated from Fire Academy like 3-4 months ago, and he got hired on at a station in Illinois, and he's currently he's on an AMBO, right, Becky? Or he's doing EMT stuff.
Yeah, but he's with the
right, but he's at a station.
Yeah, he's at a station.
Yeah. And man, I just want a completely different ecosystem. If he ever gets cancer, I want a better world, both for treatment, awareness, products. I just, because he's going into it now.
Yeah. Well, and to that, I think our members, again, I don't want to be the overly optimistic guy, but our members know so much more about cancer and cancer prevention strategies. The fire service does in general. You talk to anybody in the nation or the world, really, and you ask them, like, is cancer an issue in the fire service? Yeah. What's the? They could talk to you for hours about it. Like, everybody knows, everybody understands it, and so even that is a huge shift in what we're doing. Even the fact that there's this massive awareness out there of it, even if it's a little bit of fear, it's now on the radar, and so it can't do anything but help. We have to just react.
Hey,
to
fear is not a bad thing. It keeps me from getting really close to the edge when I go hiking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motivates them to work on things to be able to improve conditions. So
Absolutely.
It motivated you to do StormStick. It motivates people to start finding some of these solutions.
Yeah. There's a lot more out there, but we're doing good work. There's some really good work going on out there, and I'm proud of the work that's going on in the Valley here as well.
Is there anything we haven't talked about today that you would like folks to know about cancer or?
Just impact, like there's, we need people that'll get passionate with us on this stuff. I think, I would just say to the people that are out there, even if you feel like you got nothing to offer, that's where it starts, is just a passion to say, I want to do something. We need that. We can't do, there's individuals that are championing these things that are all stars in this space. Dr. Shukla is one of them. Dr. Burgess down at U of A Medical Center. There's people that are doing some incredible work in this space, but it's going to take all of us, or at least more of us. So please, if you got an itch to be involved in this, find a place, find a foothold, and just start grinding wherever you're at. And that's how we're gonna overcome this. We're gonna do it together. We're gonna do it as a fire service community, not as a few individuals or some couple research places or some chief sitting in an office. It's gonna be us as a community coming together and fighting back. And like you, Patrick, the work that you're doing, that's out. It's not even the fire service. It's community is coming together on this stuff, and just join the fight,
brother. I honestly, I don't want to see another flag draped firefighter being taken out of their home with a crying widow and being put in a hearse. If I never see that again in my lifetime, I'm down with that. Horrible. I don't want to see another guy get lost.
Yeah, horrible. Thank you for the work you're doing, Patrick.
Thank you for what you've done. All right, we'll see you on the next one.
Appreciate it.